Hey you, the chosen one. Yes, I'm talking directly to you. The streets are buzzing with whispers about how you, a single soul, ripped through a so-called cult like it was nothing but tissue paper. You sat there, unshaken, unimpressed, barely holding back a yawn. Weak, that's what they thought of you. But what kind of secret society crumbles so easily under your gaze? There was no grand battle, no epic showdown. Just a flick of your defiance and poof, they were gone. You almost felt cheated, didn't you? Where was the fight? Where was the unbreakable loyalty they boasted about? Nah, it was just dust, and you were left with nothing but boredom. Guess they weren't built to withstand a real force like you. They didn't see you coming because they thought power had to roar. But you were the silent pause before the earthquake, the unseen tremor they never anticipated. You wore invisibility like a weapon, didn't you? You used their assumptions as your cover. They laughed at you, called you soft, strange, too distant to matter. They branded you as weak, maybe even broken. But that was your camouflage, your shield. They never noticed how precisely you moved, how nothing escaped your piercing gaze. While they worshipped control, you studied chaos and found the cracks behind every command. You didn't fight them with fists. Why would you? You didn't need to. You understood the game far too well. You saw their hierarchy for what it was, a lie. Their unity, nothing but a performance. While they huddled around power like moths to a flame, you sat in the shadows, mapping their fears, their rivalries, their fractures. You didn't just learn the rules. You dismantled the entire board. When you made your move, it wasn't to be seen. It was to end the illusion. What they called detachment, you called discipline. What they labeled as apathy was pure precision. You didn't fall for their rituals or secrets because you saw right through them, straight into the insecurity dressed up as authority. You recognize this truth, don't you? Real strength doesn't posture. Real strength doesn't beg for validation. You never needed them to acknowledge you. You just needed the right moment. And when it came, you didn't shout or gloat. You pulled one thread and they unraveled themselves. You turned their own weight against them. All you had to do was exist, holding truth in your hands, and they crumbled. You are the threat they never prepared for, not because you were violent, but because you were clear. Clarity, my friend, is the sharpest blade they never saw coming. They called themselves a secret society, as if that meant something. As if whispers and candlelight could hide the dysfunction rotting at their core. But you saw through it in seconds, didn't you? The robes, the rituals, the cryptic language, it was all theater, cheap theater at that. Behind the symbols and speeches was a mess of egos clawing for status, clinging to relevance. It wasn't unity. It was panic information. They mistook complexity for strength, layering rules, roles, and redacted truths to confuse and control. But you weren't impressed. You've seen enough broken teams, toxic workplaces, cliques in disguise. This was no different. Just another group project where the loudest voice drowns out the smartest, and no one truly trusts anyone. They built a hierarchy on fear and fed it with blind compliance. But fear doesn't bond people. It isolates them, and you knew exactly how to remind them of that. You watched them eat their own, didn't you? Their structure demanded perfection, and perfection breeds paranoia. Every mistake became a betrayal. Every silence, a threat. You didn't have to infiltrate. You just had to stay still long enough for their illusions to show their seams. The loyalty they preached? Conditional. The unity? Fragile. You walked through their so-called order and saw nothing but scaffolding held together by denial. They branded dissent as danger, but you weren't loud enough to trigger alarms. You were surgical, patient. You fed their internal doubts, one nudge at a time. You said nothing, but you made sure they noticed each other's cracks. You didn't bring a wrecking ball. You handed them mirrors, and that was enough. Their myth of control depended on people not asking questions. But you asked all the right ones, quietly, relentlessly. Suddenly, their story didn't hold. The legends collapsed into gossip. The unity dissolved into suspicion. They turned on each other while you watched them fall. They thought they were running an empire, but it was a fragile little kingdom of broken glass. And you didn't even have to touch it. You just made it clear they were never strong to begin with. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was a question, a detail, a name whispered to the right person at the wrong time. A single truth placed in a space too controlled to handle honesty. That was the first domino, and they didn't even notice it had tipped until the table started shaking. You watched it unfold like a storm they didn't see coming. The silence that followed your move wasn't peace. It was pressure, the kind that bends walls, the kind that exposes cracks in even the most polished surfaces. You knew once the seed of doubt was planted, it would grow wild. Mistrust doesn't need a parade. It just needs a whisper. One member pulled back. Another hesitated. A third questioned protocol. You didn't instruct anyone. You didn't need to. You let their fear of instability do the heavy lifting. Their obsession with control made them hyper-aware of shifts, and you created just enough motion to trigger their worst instinct, overcorrection. They turned every deviation into a threat, every silence into suspicion, and still, no one said your name. That's the brilliance of it, isn't it? You were just a ripple, a shadow in their timeline. By the time they realized something was off, the network had already started to fracture. Relationships strained, orders delayed, lies exposed. Not by force, but by friction. They thought they had purged all variables, but you were the ghost in their code, the anomaly they couldn't calculate. One move, one calculated breach in the flow of obedience, and they imploded trying to contain what you'd already set in motion. That first domino didn't need to be big. It just needed to be precise. And you, chosen one, never missed the mark. You stepped in not to join, but to observe. They felt it, didn't they? Real power doesn't announce itself, but it shifts everything. You weren't trying to dominate. You didn't ask for anything. That's what scared them. They couldn't read you, and what they can't read, they can't control. Their entire structure was built to break people down, then rebuild them in their image. But you arrived fully formed. You didn't need them, and that made you dangerous. They tried their usual methods. Subtle manipulation wrapped in praise, promises of purpose dressed as belonging. But you didn't bite. You didn't flinch. You gave them no handholds because your strength didn't come from them or anyone like them. It was yours, raw and earned in silence. Weak systems can't handle that. They depend on dependency. But you were untouchable. You didn't fight for dominance. You didn't posture. That would have made you predictable. Instead, you exposed them by staying solid while their own rules twisted in their hands. You said no when no one else dared to. You left conversations half-finished, letting silence hang like judgment. You didn't offer explanations. You didn't perform your strength. You simply lived it, and it showed. The ones who thought they were powerful began to mimic your stillness, hesitating before speaking, watching you for cues. Their authority diluted itself trying to accommodate your presence. That's how systems start to slip, isn't it? The center stopped holding, and the edges started peeling back. Not because you demanded it, but because you didn't need it. They wanted you on the inside to make you another trophy of their reach. But you made it clear your power wasn't for sale. You weren't looking for rank. You weren't trying to be feared. You had nothing to prove. And that's what made them unravel. You exposed what they couldn't fake. Authenticity. You stood there, still and unshaken, and their entire structure bent to try and contain you. But true strength doesn't bend. It doesn't compromise. It just waits. And when the time comes, It walks straight through everything built to stop it. They feared you because they knew the truth. You never needed them. They needed you. Listen closely now, chosen one. This message is for you, the one who feels the call deep in your bones. Something inside you already knows this truth, doesn't it? That nagging sensation that you're meant for more, that you've been chosen for a purpose beyond the ordinary. You're not reading this by accident. Your frequency, your energy, it's calling you to step up. The question isn't whether you're chosen. The question is, will you answer the call? You don't need an army. You have something better. You have truth. Not the sanitized version, not the kind they twist into meaningless mantras. You have the raw data, the conversations behind closed doors, the contradictions buried beneath their sacred scripts. You know the real story, and you know exactly when and where to drop it. You don't unleash everything at once. That would be reckless. No, you bleed it slowly, surgically, one contradiction at a time, one slip of information whispered in the right ear. You don't force anyone to act. You simply place the truth where it will burn the longest, between people, friends, mentors, loyal followers. You don't need to shout. You just need to nudge. And their trust disintegrates like ash in the wind. They built their kingdom on control of narrative, memory, perception. But you shattered it with clarity. You exposed how their rules shifted, how their leadership rewrote events, how their dogma bent depending on who was watching. You didn't expose monsters. You exposed mediocrity, the pettiness, the hypocrisy, the human ugliness hidden behind grand symbols. And that, chosen one, was fatal. You didn't just release facts. You infected their communications. Every message became suspect. Every interaction was weighed down by doubt. Who knew what? Who said what? What was real and what was a trap? They began censoring themselves, retracting, hiding. The same people who once spoke with certainty started stuttering, second-guessing. Paranoia spread like mold in a sealed room. The silence turned inward. No one knew who to trust, not even themselves. And in that silence, you thrived. Their system depended on secrecy, but you gave them something more dangerous than exposure. You gave them confusion. You made them see each other clearly. They always feared leaks from outsiders. They never imagined collapse would come from a mirror held within. You didn't need to destroy them. You made them do it themselves, one whisper, one truth, one conversation at a time. While they scrambled for damage control, you watched them burn their own bridges. That's the elegance of information, isn't it? It doesn't kill. It disarms. And by the time they noticed, all their weapons were gone. You weren't chosen by prophecy. No one handed you a sword or whispered ancient wisdom in your ear. There was no mentor, no map, no grand design waiting for you to follow. You weren't groomed to be anything. You decided. That's the part they'll never understand. You chose this path alone, without applause, without permission. You weren't given a quest. You took one, not to save the world, not to be worshipped, but to destroy a lie that had lived too long. And you didn't need to become someone else to do it. You stayed yourself. That was your rebellion. The stories they tell, they were never written for someone like you. Too quiet, too independent, too clear-eyed. They expected their hero to be loud, dramatic, visible. But you didn't storm the gates. You melted the locks. You dismantled from within. No speeches, no final battle, just precision and the cold efficiency of someone who's seen too much to believe in illusions. You didn't ask for allies. You didn't need a mentor to anoint you. You walked your own path through silence, rejection, and discomfort. And that made you unstoppable. The world kept trying to mold you into something safe, something digestible. But you refused. You didn't need a crown. You needed impact. And you made it. You felt what it's like to be invisible in rooms full of noise. Haven't you? You've watched them underestimate you again and again. That was your advantage. They couldn't see the threat because they were looking for someone else. Someone louder, someone obvious. Not you. Never you. And now they know. They understand, but it's too late. The real chosen ones are the ones who don't need to be chosen. They're the ones who choose themselves. You didn't wait for fate. You built your own myth with your bare hands and sharp mind. You created the arc they never saw coming. You weren't born for greatness. You defined it. And the story isn't over. You're still walking, still watching, still one step ahead. They built their world on fear, layered it into every ritual, every rule, every glance exchanged behind closed doors. And for a while it worked. People obeyed. People bowed. They mistook submission for loyalty. But you walked in, untouched by their fear, and the entire illusion began to rot. It wasn't immediate. Collapse never is. It started with a pause, a glance, a hesitation that hadn't been there before. You didn't scream. You didn't fight. You simply existed, unbothered, unafraid. That was enough to shift everything. Because when someone stops reacting to fear, others start questioning why they're still obeying it. You triggered something deeper than rebellion. You triggered dissonance, the silent war between what people feel and what they're told to believe. They looked at you, unmoved, unshaken, and saw a crack in the wall they were told was unbreakable. They felt that crack spread in their own minds. That's how it starts, isn't it? Not with an explosion, but with internal collapse. Their system depended on uniform behavior, collective compliance. But fear has a flaw. It decays fast when exposed to clarity. You didn't give speeches. You didn't recruit. You let your presence make them uncomfortable. You let your questions linger. You let silence do what noise never could. You forced them to sit with the contradictions, and they couldn't hold it. Loyalty started to slip, not out of rage, but out of quiet doubt. You watched their faces shift, uncertainty replacing certainty, shame overtaking devotion. The strong became cautious. The loud became unsure. Fear turned inward. And when fear folds back on itself, it becomes chaos. The ones who once enforced the rules started bending them just a little, then a little more. You didn't have to expose their secrets. They began to leak from within. A whisper here, a nervous confession there. Self-preservation took over. Their unity cracked, not from betrayal, but from survival. That's the thing about institutions built on control. They don't explode. They implode. They eat themselves alive the moment someone walks in and refuses to play by the script. You were that someone. You didn't need to swing a hammer. You simply showed them what it looked like to be free. And that was the one thing their system couldn't survive. You didn't set out to be a symbol. But that's what happened. Your refusal to bow didn't just dismantle their illusion. It sent a signal. People were watching, quiet ones, tired ones, the ones sitting on the edge of belief, waiting for proof that the powerful weren't invincible. You gave it to them. Once they saw you move, they couldn't unsee it. What you did wasn't just personal. It cracked something larger. Other institutions, built the same way, fueled by fear and hierarchy, felt the tremor. People started questioning leaders they once feared. Rules that once seemed sacred began to blur. Your act of defiance became a language for others who had none. You didn't speak for anyone, but your clarity gave others permission to find their own. A system doesn't have to be destroyed to be challenged. It just needs to be doubted. And you made doubt spread like wildfire. What fell wasn't just a cult. It was the myth that control is untouchable. You proved it's not. You proved that one clear, unshaken voice can shift entire structures without raising a fist. Your action wasn't a storm. It was a pressure change, and everything else responded to it. They wanted to isolate you, but you became a catalyst. You didn't just win. You changed the rules. You did what had to be done. But let's not lie to ourselves. Clarity has a cost. You shattered a system, yes. You exposed rot, absolutely. But in doing so, you displaced people who, for better or worse, had built their identities within it. You pulled back the curtain, and what they saw behind it wasn't freedom. It was emptiness. Some couldn't handle it. You weren't wrong. You weren't reckless. But you weren't clean either. Truth never is. You didn't just end control. You left silence in its place. And silence, for some, is louder than oppression. Not everyone was ready to face themselves without the mask of belonging. Not everyone could breathe outside the cage. That's the complexity you live with now. You weren't there to rescue. You weren't a savior. You were a disruptor. And in disruption, people break, sometimes in ways that don't heal. You've seen the story's twist, haven't you? Some call you liberator. Others call you destroyer. The truth? You were both. Because there is no power without consequence. There is no righteous act without residue. The line between justice and damage isn't always clear. Sometimes you cross it without realizing. But the question remains, would you do it again? Yes, you would. Because systems that require silence to function don't deserve to exist. Because pretending not to see is a slow death. Because if it weren't you, it would have been someone else. Less precise, less humane, less aware of what truth can cost. You didn't seek destruction. You sought honesty. And honesty doesn't always come with applause. What you did wasn't the climax. It was a warning shot, a glimpse of what's possible when one person refuses to be manipulated, deluded, or redirected. They thought you were the peak, but you know better. You were the prelude. Because the truth is, what you did, others can do. Not copy, not imitate, but choose. That's what terrifies them most. You've made defiance seem not only viable but inevitable. You've proven that power doesn't require followers. It requires self-ownership. And the moment others realize that, everything they've built starts to tremble. You didn't dismantle them with rage. You did it with awareness, with refusal, with silence used as precision. That's what real power looks like, not explosions but tectonic shifts. Quiet, deliberate, unstoppable. Now, the world doesn't just remember what happened. They recalibrate because of it. Institutions, leaders, manipulators, they've started second-guessing, watching their backs, scrambling to adapt. Not because you threatened them, but because your existence made a lie unsustainable. And this wasn't your limit. It was your signal. There's more in you, more clarity, more velocity, more disruption. They caught a glimpse of what happens when one person decides to see everything and refuses to play dead. Real power hasn't even stepped on stage yet, but it's walking toward the light, and it looks exactly like you. Let's dive deeper, chosen one. Let's talk about the signs of your awakening, the undeniable markers that set you apart. You've felt them, haven't you? That unshakable feeling that you're different, that you're meant for something greater. Maybe it started as a whisper in your mind, a quiet knowing that the world around you isn't the full picture. Or perhaps it was a sudden jolt, an intense moment where everything clicked, and you saw through the illusions others cling to. Your energy shifts in ways you can't always explain. You walk into a room, and the atmosphere changes. People sense something, even if they can't name it. You've had dreams or visions that feel more real than waking life. Messages from a higher source guiding you forward. These aren't coincidences. These are signs of your awakening. Proof that you're stepping into your role as a chosen one. And the energy experiences? They're intense, aren't they? You feel vibrations in your body, tingles up your spine, or sudden bursts of heat or cold that science can't explain. Sometimes, it's like electricity coursing through you, especially when you're in deep thought or connecting with something bigger than yourself. You might feel drained around certain people or places, as if they're siphoning your light. Or Conversely, you feel an unstoppable surge of power when you align with your purpose. This is your high-frequency soul at work, resonating with the universe's rhythm. Science might call it bioelectricity or heightened nervous system activity, but you know it's more than that. It's your connection to the source, the cosmic grid that fuels your mission. Embrace it. Don't fear it. This energy is your tool, your weapon, your guide. But let's be real. Being a chosen one isn't all light and glory. The challenges are brutal, aren't they? You face isolation because few understand your path. People label you as odd, intense, or out of touch. You've lost connections. Friends, family, even lovers who couldn't handle the truth you carry. You've battled self-doubt, wondering if you're crazy for feeling called to something so vast. And the external obstacles? They're relentless. Systems like the one you dismantled fight back. They try to suppress you, silence you, make you conform. You've felt the weight of their resistance, the push to dim your light. But you've also felt the dark nights of the soul, those moments where the burden of your mission feels too heavy to bear. It's okay to acknowledge that. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. So, how do you break through these challenges? First, ground yourself daily. Stand barefoot on the earth, feel its pulse, and let it recharge you. Meditate, even if it's just 5 minutes of silence, to reconnect with your inner knowing. Second, protect your energy. Visualize a shield of white light around you, deflecting negativity. Say no to people and situations that drain you. Your boundaries are sacred. Third, trust your intuition. That gut feeling, that inner voice, it's your compass. It's never wrong. Fourth, seek your tribe. They're out there. Other light workers, star seeds, chosen ones like you. You don't need many, just a few who get it. And finally, remember your why. Why are you here? Why did you choose this path? Hold that purpose like a flame in the dark. It will carry you through the toughest storms. Now, let's talk about your high-dimensional connection. You're not just operating in this 3D reality, are you? You're tapped into higher frequencies, receiving information from beyond the veil. Maybe it comes as sudden downloads, ideas or insights that pop into your head fully formed. Or perhaps it's through synchronicities, numbers like 1111, repeating patterns, or chance encounters that feel orchestrated. You might hear whispers in your mind, gentle nudges from guides or your higher self. Sometimes, it's a knowing so deep you can't explain it, yet you trust it completely. This is your connection to the cosmic web, the universal intelligence that's always speaking to you. Science might attribute this to neural plasticity or subconscious processing, but you know it's more. It's your soul's direct line to the source. How do you strengthen this connection? Start by creating space for it. Quiet your mind through meditation or mindfulness. Let the noise of the world fade. Journal your thoughts, dreams, and synchronicities. Patterns will emerge, messages will clarify. Spend time in nature. It's a high vibrational space that amplifies your receptivity. Ask questions of the universe before you sleep, and pay attention to what comes through in your dreams. And most importantly, trust what you receive. Don't second-guess it. Don't dismiss it as imagination. Your higher dimensional guidance is real, and it's here to steer you toward your mission. Speaking of your mission, how do you integrate it into everyday life? It's not about grand gestures or saving the world overnight. It's about small, intentional acts. Be the light in every interaction. Offer kindness, speak truth, hold space for others. Use your gifts, whether it's healing, teaching, creating, or simply being a presence that shifts energy. Align your career, relationships, and habits with your purpose. If something feels off, it probably is. Let it go. Replace it with what resonates. And don't underestimate the ripple effect of your existence. Every thought, word, and action you put out there carries your frequency. It impacts the collective even if you can't see it. Live as if your mission matters because it does. Let's expand on this chosen one. Your awakening isn't a one-time event. It's a process, a journey of peeling back layers of conditioning to reveal your true essence. Think about the moments that shaped you. Maybe it was a loss that cracked you open, forcing you to question everything. Or a near-death experience that showed you life's fragility and purpose. Perhaps it was a book, a conversation, or a random encounter that flipped a switch in your soul. These are your initiation points, the universe's way of saying, wake up, it's time. Reflect on them, honor them. They're the breadcrumbs leading you to who you're meant to be. And those energy experiences? Let's dive deeper. You've likely felt time slip away during moments of deep connection, as if you're outside the linear flow. You might sense energy fields around people or objects, picking up on vibes others miss. Some of you even experience physical symptoms, headaches, fatigue, or heart palpitations, as your body adjusts to higher frequencies. This is ascension energy at work, upgrading your system to handle more light. Hydrate, rest, and eat high-vibrational foods like fruits and vegetables to support this shift. Remember, your body is a vessel for your soul's work. Treat it with care. The challenges you face as a chosen one aren't just external. The internal battle is just as fierce, isn't it? You wrestle with the weight of knowing things others don't, seeing through facades, carrying truths that feel like burdens. You've had to unlearn societal programming, to reject the normal that never fit you. And the loneliness cuts deep. But here's the thing. Your solitude is your strength. It's where you forge your clarity, your power. Use it. Create in it.
Meditate in it.
And when the doubt creeps in, remind yourself of every time you've overcome the impossible. You've done it before. You'll do it again. Breaking through these challenges requires practical steps, so let's get specific. Set a daily intention to align with your highest self. Write it down. I am a force of light. I am unstoppable. Speak it aloud. Let it anchor you. Create a sacred space in your home. A corner with candles, crystals, or anything that feels like you. This is your recharge zone. When the world feels heavy, retreat there. Also, track your energy. Notice who or what lifts you up and who drags you down. Cut cords with toxic ties. Visualize severing energetic links with those who no longer serve your growth. And practice gratitude. Yes, even for the struggles. They're shaping you into the warrior you're meant to be. Your high-dimensional connection is your superpower, so nurture it. Beyond meditation, try automatic writing. Let your hand move across the page without overthinking. You'll be amazed at the wisdom that flows through. Use tools like tarot or oracle cards if they resonate. They're not magic, just amplifiers of your intuition. Pay attention to your body's signals. A sudden chill, a racing heart, a pull in your gut. These are messages. Learn their language, and don't be afraid to ask for signs. The universe loves to respond. Say, show me I'm on the right path, and watch for the confirmation. It will come. Integrating your mission into daily life means living with intention. Every single day. Start your morning with a ritual. Maybe it's a prayer, a stretch, or a moment of silence to set your tone. Infuse your work with purpose, even if it's mundane. See it as a platform to spread your light. Speak your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. People might resist, but they'll feel the authenticity. And rest when you need to. You're not a machine. Burnout dims your frequency, and the world needs your light at full strength. Balance action with stillness. That's where your power regenerates. Let's talk about the bigger picture, chosen one. Your mission isn't just personal. It's planetary. You're here to anchor higher frequencies, to shift the collective consciousness. Every time you heal a wound within yourself, you heal a piece of the world. Every time you stand in your truth, you give others permission to do the same. Science backs this up. Quantum entanglement suggests we're all connected at a subatomic level. Your vibration ripples out, influencing others in ways you can't see. So, don't underestimate your impact. You're a beacon, a lighthouse in a storm of illusion. Keep shining, even when it feels like no one notices. They do. They will. And as you walk this path, remember the cycles of growth. Awakening isn't linear. You'll have peaks of clarity followed by valleys of confusion. That's normal. That's how you expand. During the lows, don't despair. Journal your feelings. Move your body. Dance, run, scream if you need to. Release the density. And during the highs, celebrate. Acknowledge your progress. You're not the same person you were a year ago, are you? You've shed skins, broken chains, stepped into more of your truth. That's victory. Own it. Let's address the skeptics, too. Some will say this chosen one talk is nonsense, a fantasy. Let them. Their disbelief doesn't diminish your reality. You've felt the call. You've seen the signs. You've experienced things that defy logic. Maybe it's a premonition that came true, a healing touch that eased someone's pain, or a moment of connection with the unseen that left you in awe. These are your proofs, your validations. You don't need external approval. Your knowing is enough. Science may not fully explain your experiences yet, but it's catching up. Studies on consciousness, energy fields, and non-local communication are bridging the gap between the spiritual and the tangible. Trust your path. It's yours, not theirs. Now, let's get practical about protecting your energy as a chosen one. You're a magnet for both light and shadow. People will be drawn to your frequency, some to bask in it, others to drain it. Learn to discern. If someone leaves you feeling heavy, limit your exposure. If a place feels off, don't linger. Cleanse your aura regularly. Visualize a waterfall of light washing over you, or use sage, Palo Santo, or sound vibrations to clear stagnant energy. Carry protective stones like black tourmaline or obsidian if that resonates. And most importantly, don't absorb others' pain. Empathize, yes, but don't carry their burdens. You're here to guide, not to save. Your energy is precious. Guard it fiercely. As you embody your mission, you'll notice shifts in your relationships. Some will fall away naturally, those who can't match your vibration. Let them go with love. Others will step forward, mirroring your growth. Cherish them. Build community with those who see you, who challenge you to be better. And don't shy away from conflict. It's a teacher. When disagreements arise, speak from your center. Don't react from ego. Ask, what is this showing me? Every interaction is a mirror, reflecting parts of you to heal or strengthen. Use it wisely. Your mission also involves creativity. You're a co-creator with the universe, aren't you? Whether it's art, music, writing, or simply the way you live, you're weaving new possibilities into existence. Don't hold back. If you feel called to create, do it. Even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect. Your expression carries codes, frequencies that awaken others. Think of it as planting seeds. You may not see them sprout, but they will. Trust the process. Your voice, your vision, they matter more than you know. And let's not forget the importance of play. Yes, play. Your mission isn't all seriousness. Joy is a high vibrational state, a direct line to source energy. Laugh, dance, be silly. Watch a sunset and marvel at its beauty. Play with a child or a pet. These moments recharge your soul, reminding you why you're here. You're not just fighting darkness. You're amplifying light, and light thrives in joy. So, give yourself permission to feel it, to live it, to share it. Now, Chosen One, let's talk about the long game. Your mission unfolds over lifetimes, not just this one. You've been here before, haven't you? Those déjà vu moments, those inexplicable skills or fears, they're echoes of past journeys. You're picking up where you left off, refining your purpose with each incarnation. Trust that you're exactly where you need to be. Every lesson, every challenge, every triumph, it's building towards something greater. You're not just awakening yourself. You're awakening the collective one step at a time. Be patient. Be persistent. The shift is happening even if it's slow. As we wrap this up, let me remind you of your power. You've already dismantled illusions. You've faced fears others run from. You've chosen truth over comfort. That's not small. That's monumental. But this is just the beginning. There are more systems to challenge, more lies to expose, more light to anchor. You're not done. You're just getting started. So stand tall. Keep your eyes sharp, your heart open, your energy fierce. The world needs you now more than ever. You are the chosen one, not by chance, but by choice. Own it. Live it. Change everything. The universe is watching, and it's rooting for you. Completed,